I just want to say welcome to everyone who's joined us. And while we're waiting for the rest of everyone, the rest of the group to join us, if you just want to check for the email that you received from Nick, in that email, you'll have the link for the breakout groups. So just want to make sure that everybody has that handy when we're ready to switch out to the breakout groups. It looks like we're almost here. I'm going to give it just one more minute to let everybody collect and make sure we've got as many people here as possible. So we'll just give it one more minute, Nick, okay? And we'll begin at
Sure.
2. Hello again. Welcome. It's really great to see everyone. We're super excited for the meeting that we've got planned. It's going to be a great meeting. So please be mindful that this meeting is being recorded for the public record. We thought we'd kick it off with a centering exercise. Then we'll have a more formal welcome. So if everyone can just, find a comfortable position in your chair and gently close your eyes. Feel your feet on the ground. Place your hands in your lap. Focus on your breath. Breathe in slowly. Breathe out slowly. Deep breath in slowly. And deep breath out slowly. Breathe normally again. And slowly open your eyes. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for participating in the Equity and Mobility Advisory Committee for the toll projects. For myself and on behalf of ODOT, we very much appreciate your time and commitment to this process. So when it comes to technical help, please take note of Nick's information on the screen there, have his phone number and email handy just in case you need it later. Once again, we will be recording the entire meeting, and what you say is part of the public record. The recording will be made available for the public review next week. To find out more information about the project, please go to OregonTolling.org, and community members, you are welcome to email your public comments to us at OregonTolling@odot.stateor.us. Next slide, please. Several of you said you'd like to keep the land acknowledgement in our meetings. Currently, ODOT is working with the community of tribal leaders to understand how we honor this tradition in a virtual environment. When they reach an understanding, we look forward to sharing the outcome with you. So thank you for joining us today. I am Jessica Stanton, your new EMAC facilitator. It was wonderful to have had the opportunity to meet with all of you before the meeting. I want to acknowledge all of the excellent work that you've done. You are pillars for our equity process. I also wish to acknowledge and thank Christine, your previous facilitator, for all the work you did together. I have big shoes to fill. Together, you all built the foundation for where we are today, including developing your charter, providing thoughtful input on the public involvement plan, and adopting the equity framework. I'm in awe of the groundbreaking work you've already done. So now it's time to leverage the foundation you have built to take on the next stage of EMAC, putting equity to work. We want to give you, as a committee, the opportunity to fulfill your purpose in guiding the project and ODOT to cultivate processes for equity and equitable outcomes. We'll be building in equity with the mitigation strategies for the tolling projects, and will continue to guide an equitable public involvement process. We'll be developing your recommendations for policy to share with the OTC. We're going to build partnerships. As part of our work, we'll collaborate with our colleagues on the committee the project team, ODOT, and the OTC. And we will continue to look for opportunities to build partners beyond this room to deliver equitable outcomes. Let's promise each other to keep our eyes on the prize. I'm thrilled. I'm just thrilled to be moving forward with you. The foundation is set for the work that you've done. We have the support of ODOT and the project team and the brain trust and passion of you all as EMAC members. Let's go big with equity. Together, we have an amazing opportunity to write another kind of transportation story, one that leads with equity. Next slide, please. So now I'm just briefly going to remind you of the working together agreements from your charter that we have for all of our meetings, including today's meeting. So we're going to listen, believe, and reflect, accept non-closure for the moment, speak your own truth with compassion, listen to understand, not to respond, value and celebrate each other's experiences, open hearts plus open minds leads to exploration of possibilities. Make space, then take space, and be concise. Bring your best thinking into the room. Attack the problem, not the person. There's going to be disagreement, frustration, and differences of opinion are acknowledged, they're explored and addressed. Next slide, please. We're now moving on to our meeting's purpose. Our purpose today is to transition from process to outcome equity. So during the last meeting, we had the process equity performance measures workshop. We learned about the Metro Regional Congestion Pricing Study, and we had an update on the toll projects. If you need to refresh your memory about where we've been, look to the EMAC meeting number 6 summary and the committee questions and request matrix. If you need us to resend these items to you, just reach out. Next slide, please. So now we're going to talk about our proposed outcomes for this wonderfully ambitious meeting. We want to gain EMAC's, your support to move forward with the process equity performance measures and the EMAC game plan. We'll identify the information and support needed for EMAC to achieve success. And we want to understand how the equity framework will be applied to policy development and toll projects. And we want to listen to and hear from the broader community and EMAC members about what you're thinking. What's everybody talking about? Next slide, please. So here's our list of agenda topics. We've talked about the purpose of the meeting and we have a robust agenda, but it's really important for all of this to work. We need you to give us your support and thoughts about moving forward with the game plan. Just a friendly reminder, please take time to look through your emails for an email from Nick Fazio. It's dated today, March 31st. In the email, it will have the required Zoom link that we'll need for our workshop during the meeting. Please take a look for it now so that when we're at that point for the workshop, we can jump quickly into those breakout groups. Next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, it was an amazing entry into this project to spend time talking with each one of you. There were so many takeaways from our conversation, so I'm just going to share a few. It is so clear to me that EMAC is a diverse and prolific group of people. If I were to imagine a committee that could build equity into a major infrastructure project like tolling, it would look like you. And I heard from all of you that you are here for something bigger than yourselves. And another one of the thoughts that you shared with us is that you want to discuss topics like tolling and ODOT, other things that come up during the meeting together in real time. So in response to you, the project team has invited other people connected with this vast tolling program to be available when those conversations occur. Next slide, please. We want to thank our committee member, Amanda, for sharing with us what she's learned about community engagement in Washington County. She helped inspire our approach to sharing our thoughts with you. So we had one idea in mind, but then after talking to you, we made some adjustments. So I'm going to hand it over to Garrett, and he's going to tell you more about what we heard and how it changed what we're doing. Garrett, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you for coming on to our team. As you all saw in the one-on-one conversations, she's been an absolute delight to work with. And I really enjoyed, I'm still relatively new to the team and learning about you all as people. Really connected with one of you who talked about your working on the farm with your dad. I too am first generation of person in my family who hasn't worked either in a factory or on the construction site. And then a couple of other you wake up on Saturdays, and food is a great love of mine and Jessica's as well. To hear about your wake and pancake Saturday mornings. One of you has a perfect pancake recipe. Love for a good old fashioned on a Friday afternoon, or a recipe for homemade fried chicken, which I have as well, and we'll have to debate one of you on which one is better. So thank you for getting to learn more about just you as people as well. Jessica and I really enjoyed it. Next slide. So these slides have way too much information on them, so I'm just going to hit on the main point. They're really the detailed piece was for folks to kind of see more the granular level of what's going to be going on. So we heard there was general support for the game plan, but some folks wanted it to be little more simplistic than just the Excel sheet. So that's why you have a game plan overview, while other of you wanted more detail involved in that. And that's why you see the game plan schedule is that more complex kind of PDF that was sent with the meeting packet. And agree, please use your Zoom feature to find the text there, because it is kind of small if you just look at it in one screen. Next slide. We're really trying to, as you can see on the left side of the screen, like Jessica said, this is an absolutely wonderful network of people. And we're trying to find how do we bring the network and knowledge that's within this group into the project for engagement, but also in some of these process equity and the equity outcomes. So we'll start that conversation today, but it's still one we're trying to evolve and get better at. Next slide. We really want to develop relationships and understanding as these recommendations head to the Oregon Transportation Commission, which we're thankful we have Commissioner Smith on our committee. We really want to set that conversation up to be a good one, to be a relationship. And so outside of just this kind of more formal presentations or this recommendation that we're working towards, we really want to work with the commission and figure out ways that we can relationship build before we get to that final piece. And to really have you all understand and have the OTC understand the different constraints and interests that you're trying to accomplish in the project. Next slide. The equity framework, it's, you put all this work into it, but how is it actually going to be applied? How are you going to see it lead to concrete changes in the project? And I think we've done a great job of communicating the process and the engagement side. But now we're going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to get into the outcome equity piece. And that's where you see that game plan, and our conversation today is going to build upon it. Like Jessica said, there's other committees with where Michael is on the Portland Bureau of Transportation, or Metro is also studying congestion pricing and road pricing. There's other folks here who I know sit on transit and transportation committees in Vancouver or Tigard. And so how do we bring that wealth of knowledge and incorporate into what we're doing? It's something we're still kind of working on, but something we're thinking about. And finally, you gave a lot of good feedback, and Jessica and I are kind of working on kind of what does that improvement look like. Trying to get out by 5 p.m. because we know, and I'll have a kiddo that comes in here the door as well, and dinner time starts up. Although we had one EMAC member cook family dinner while they were talking to Jessica and I, and like was amazing at both things. So some of you are just like world-class multitaskers, but we'll really try to get done by 5 p.m. and really break these apart. This is probably one of the more dense meetings we'll have, hopefully, going forward. Next slide. Yep.
Yeah.
Jessica,
so yeah. What we did. Thank you, Garrett. So thanks. We hope to have captured the takeaways from the one-on-ones with you. There's probably so much more that we could have said about them, but we consider this a great beginning for more conversations to come. So back to our earlier point, we were thinking one way about the EMAC game plan, and then we asked for your thoughts, and you had excellent ideas. And one of those ideas is, why don't you map this out visually for us? Give us a visual overview. So voila. Here's our first pass at an overview. Garrett, would you like to walk us through the overview?
Yeah, and so I think, so what you see here, it kind of builds upon different things. In transit, multimodal, health and safety, and affordability, we'll talk about kind of policy down to project level, how equity looks in these projects as far as outcomes. That will lead to kind of like, we'll pause and take a look at, okay, in each one of these conversations, what are the draft policies that we like? What are some of maybe the low-hanging fruit that we could get implemented now? What are other things we're going to work towards? We'll then, after that kind of draft circle, we'll tack back on our process equity and our outcome equity for the toll project specifically, and kind of what investments are being made there. We'll then loop back to kind of that, okay, what are the final policy recommendations between EMAC and the OTC? And what we heard from pretty much the entire committee is that it's important that we have time towards the end to talk about decisions that might be made past April of next year or past the spring of the next year when EMAC would do their 2-year commitment. And so that's where that space at the very end where EMAC is providing feedback to ODOT, that's going to be on those project level decisions, in addition to other policies as this project goes forward, kind of building in that accountability system as much as possible. So that's your overview.
Great. So thank you, Garrett. Nicole, can you bring everyone up on screen now, please? Oh, great. So yes, if the members would turn their cameras on, it'd be great to see your lovely faces. So understanding that this is an evolving process and we will continually improve and adjust as we go along. The question is, are you ready to support and move forward with the EMAC game plan? So if you can give us a thumbs up and hold it onto the screen and let us know if you're ready to move forward with the EMAC game plan. I see, yay, yay, great, okay, good, thank you. I think it looks like we have agreement. So we've got agreement, so let's roll on. Great, thank you guys. So I guess, yeah, we'll go back to the screen and now let's talk about the EMAC game plan workshop. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to just briefly explain the 30-minute workshop that we've got planned. We have 4 topical areas that we're going to discuss, and for each area we have 2 questions. So the topics are transit and multimodal, neighborhood health and safety impacts, affordability, and environmental justice. So for each one of those topics, we're going to ask the following questions. What are the equitable outcomes and opportunities for each of these? And what information or support do you need from the project team to achieve success? So this is information that we've already discussed in prior meetings and in our one-on-ones. So you will see that we've pre-populated the Jamboards with information we've already captured. So we're not starting from scratch here. Next slide, please. So to summarize, the purpose of the workshop is for EMAC, you all, to provide information to the project team on equitable outcomes and opportunities that you would like to see so that we can develop an EMAC schedule to support your work. So this is the time where we're going to use that Zoom link to get into your breakout groups. So everyone kind of look for that email from Nick that you received today. We'll use the Jamboard to capture the group input while we're in the breakout groups. And then at the end of the workshop, we'll return back to this main EMAC meeting with the original Zoom link webinar link that you received. So if you haven't already, gather that email, and in a moment, we're going to jump into the breakout groups. But before you go, just make sure you take down Nick's information, the phone number and his email. So if anything happens, just reach out to Nick so that you can meet us on the breakout group Zoom. Okay? See everybody in the breakout rooms.
And if you're just now joining us, thanks for hanging out. Our committee members will be making their way back from their breakout sessions in just a couple more minutes. So we'll try and get started again at 4:30. Okay, everyone? Thank you. And if you're just now joining us, welcome. Want to let you know that our EMAC members are coming back from a brief break, so we'll go ahead and get started at 4:30, just another couple minutes. Thanks, everyone.
Welcome back, everybody. Those were amazing conversations in the breakout groups. I think we have just about everybody here. Are we waiting for a few more people? All right. We'll give it one more minute, maybe.
Yeah, just gonna, I think we are waiting on a few more people, but maybe we could, the
Yeah.
report out, we could start that, and then, you know, I think just a few people there could filter in before we get to new content.
You know what? So then maybe we'll switch it up. Why don't you go first, Garrett, then, and then we'll have Nicole report out later. Okay, is that right?
Sure.
Okay. So yes. Cool.
Yeah, so I had, I'm going to report out on affordability and environmental justice. So just some of the main topics that the groups together combined. So affordability, it seemed like there was a consistent theme around other factors like housing and wages. And can those be not just, you know, can those be looked at as well as just household income as far as affordability? If there are any kind of discounts or exemptions set up, make sure that that's also accessible in Southwest Washington, you know, crossing state lines. And then to maybe look at, as the rates are being set, building in some type of limit on increases like is done with utilities. And so folks can, won't just kind of be blindsided or have a real drastic hit to their budget if toll rates double or you know, rate, you know, go up in the future. For environmental justice, if we want to flip to that slide, I'll start talking. Just really making sure there's added weight and considerations from input from historically and currently underserved or underrepresented communities. Looking at benefits for communities such as amenities like landscaping, bus shelters, art, etc. You know, some of these ideas that are kind of on the, you know, just beyond just like building a bus line or doing other big capital improvements, something that's more kind of community friendly. And then really making sure that we're not just looking at just the community's needs, but also its assets and what assets can we build upon to further. And so we're not kind of replacing or kind of duplicating what's already there. So that's my report out from that. I'll go to Anne or Nicole to report out on one of the other topics.
Anne, do you want to take it from here?
Sure. I'll just mention a couple of things that were just key themes that came out. One was that we make trips that are not using a single occupancy vehicle on the freeway more attractive, accessible, easy to use, and reliable. And ideas related to that were commute trip reduction programs, big shout out for more bus on shoulder, and then working with large employers to connect employees where they live to their place of employment. So those were, you know, things that we were really working on. Some data needs were understanding where people are and where they are going and connecting them. You know, either they live in one area and they're going to another. And then also data needs included baseline of current vehicle miles traveled so that we can compare over time. More information was requested about the Origo program, the pilot program in Oregon related to road usage charge, and then also commute trip reduction programs and whether those can work across state lines. So those were a few of the things that came out of our conversation. I'll turn it to Nicole.
Thanks, Anne. So I'm focusing on transit and multimodal for my report out here. And some of the things that we really talked about was beyond the day one, not just day one projects, but really looking before that. So about regional coordination, especially regional coordination of transit agencies to have that framework set up before day one. And then also free being a transit system being free to users. You know, it was said nothing is more equitable than free. And then also accessibility into neighborhoods. So not just along major corridors, but actually bringing sidewalks and improvements and multimodal facilities into neighborhoods to really provide those connections. So those were some of the biggest keys for the transit multimodal.
That's awesome, you guys. Any thoughts before we move on from any of the members? Any additional thoughts for the takeaways? Go ahead, Bill.
This might be a little preemptive, but I'm concerned about who would potentially be operating the tolls. I think if it's contracted out to a private company, that's not in the public's best interest, because eventually extra profits are going to that company, where if it's operated something that's publicly, that should go back into the community itself. So I think that's something to be cognizant of. Who is operating this program, and then where are those profits going once current funding needs are met?
Well, thank you for that. We'll add that. I think, are there any other quick takeaway thoughts from the workout from the workshop? Okay, really nice work. It was awesome listening to you guys. Very good work. Let's move on. Garrett, I think we'll do the project updates.
Nicole, you don't mind bringing in? And James, we did catch you. I saw you threw in the chat there, transparency on how funds will be used. We'll add that to the sheets as well. So I'm going to give you kind of a highlight overview of the updates on the projects. There's definitely more that can be said here, but I know in the conversations, one of your kind of key takeaways was to bring you updates to make sure we know what's going on at the project level as you're meeting. So we'll run through these few slides. So this was going back to how is the equity framework being applied. I just wanted to highlight on this the difference between the policy and engagement and the toll projects. And so if we want to go to the next slide. So for policy and engagement in the equity framework, you get to step 4 and you have the opportunity to go fully back to step 1. And so with policy engagement, that's a little bit, it's easier to accomplish. And so what you see here is as we're starting off last summer, but as we build on the policy decisions moving forward, we'll really have a chance to kind of loop back and look at all the policies and where they stand and provide feedback on that as that heads forward. And the key documents you're going to look for to where ODOT's policy commitments are going to be in what's called an equitable toll report, which is a report we're developing now and we'll get to you soon. And the public involvement plan, which you'll hear about from Hannah and Anne in the subgroup that worked on that. Next slide. So for the toll projects, because it's developing a project, decisions are made and they kind of progressively build and narrow. And so that's a difference from the policy work. And so because I've worked on, was just recently working on the Southwest Corridor Light Rail project, and we would have meetings with folks about, well, if we're just looking at light rail, why don't you go back and study bus? Or why don't you go back and study another option? And in the NEPA process, when you get down to like if you're looking at the asterisk that says spring of next year, when we look at the alternatives for I-205, we're really looking and choosing between those alternatives, and there's not the opportunity to fully go back and study a whole nother alternative in that. And so that's where I wanted to show you the little cone of decision-making here versus the policy world, because decisions on projects kind of build progressively. And so there's NEPA documents, which we'll continue to bring to you that have where the project decisions lie. And so for the regional tolling project, the only difference between this and I-205 is the dates that you see there for the different decisions. This project is about a year behind the I-205 project as far as the NEPA path, the National Environmental Policy Path. And so it hasn't gotten to kind of what are the different alternatives to be analyzed. And so within this next year, we'll bring some of those questions to you all, like we're bringing to the community, on narrowing down the alternatives to be studied further in environmental study. So to your point about where are the day one investments from ODOT, and so these two, that's why we wanted to highlight in your terms about policies and mitigation. And the real difference is that mitigation is very much tied to the footprint of the project. So it has to be within that NEPA kind of cone, whereas policies can be made that influence the tolling program regardless of kind of where it's implemented or geography. So when we're talking about, we mentioned the growing wealth gap in America, COVID, historic racism. These are a lot of the groundwork for the NEPA project and inform its context. When you hear about the purpose and need statement, that's sort of the trunk of it. Goals build off of that. Objectives build from goals, and performance measures are the leaves of the NEPA tree. And Jessica and I, we were inspired by, we'll give a shout out to Eduardo on this, it came up in our conversation about what's a way to explain this organization of NEPA. Because if we're asking you to comment on performance measures, we want you to know, like, where are those in context of the project? Next slide. So for I-205, here's the quick update on where that project is at. It started a year ago with what you see here on the screen, looking at options within this footprint around the Abernathy Bridge. Next slide. So after a year of input and looking at what alternatives would be best, there were 5 alternatives proposed. We're narrowing those down to 2 alternatives and a no-build scenario. And that's going to be this next year. We're going to analyze what's called Alternative 3 that you see here on the screen, which are segment-based tolls. And then if you go to the next slide, Alternative 4 is segment-based, but it includes a couple of additional segments around I-205 as well. And so when we're talking about mitigation or performance measures, it's really going to be measured off of what these 2 kind of build or alternatives are going to be. So this gives you just a timeline. It's in there for your notes about, where this moves through the process. Again, as you can see, summer 2022, spring 2023, these would be after EMAC meets or fulfills your 2-year commitment. So we'll want to make sure there's space if there are future decisions to be made that you all can weigh in upon those, and we can bring those to you. So for the regional tolling piece, it's what you see here on the screen. It's the dark purple arrow along I-5 from North Going Street down to the Boone Bridge. And then it's basically the other segments on I-205. So from the I-205 I-5 intersection up to the Glenn Jackson Bridge. So like I said before, it's about a year behind. It's still in this kind of discussing key questions phase now, which we're just kicking off and beginning. There'll be kind of draft statements throughout this next year, purpose and need, goals and objectives, performance measures, and those kind of get more solidified then at the start of next year when those are put in place, and then the project team works on that analysis. And so like I talked about before, there's a process that kind of begins here in 2022, but it's really another 3 years before these projects, or at least this regional tolling project, would get its stamp of approval from the US DOT or Department of Transportation. And so there's more details we can go into about this, but I just wanted to provide you, this is kind of the path forward for that project. And so like we talked about here today, it was beautiful that we went big and got all your thoughts and questions hopefully down on paper. But now the real challenge is, how can we focus this and make this into constructive conversations? And so that's where that EMAX schedule, that kind of Excel sheet that lives, we're going to continue to build and work on that and sharpen it. And so, if you're seeing that the ideas you brought up today aren't incorporated into that, or you don't like the timing of it, be sure to reach out to us and help us know how we can accomplish that goal.
Thank you,
So, Jessica.
Garrett. Yeah, thank you for those project updates. So that's it. Maybe Nicole, do you want to bring up everyone on screen? Do you guys have any questions or comments? I see a hand already from Michael. Yes, do you have some questions about the project updates? Why don't we go with Michael first?
Thanks for that. Thanks for that update. I just, wanted to chime in and really acknowledge James's comment about transparency on funds collected. I know that's something that is on my mind a lot, and especially when we think about, we talked a lot about, wanting to see investments in transit and multimodal components. And so I just am like trying to think about are we going to have the space to talk a bit about that, and what that might look like, and if that can be maybe there's space for that conversation when we're talking about the toll program in general. But I know to achieve a lot of our equity outcomes that we're really looking for, there's revenue towards them is a big piece of that.
So Michael, to help answer that, are you looking like how much money would be generated by tolling? What would it be going to? Are these the types of questions you were thinking about for that?
Yeah, and I guess I'm specifically interested in wondering if we would have a chance to discuss what kind of split of revenue generated from tolling would go towards equity initiatives or investments in multimodal system and transit versus money that goes into more freeway projects.
I mean, I'll answer that. Yes, we will. Well, that's kind of, we're going to queue that up for some of our policy discussions, because when you look around the United States, it's done kind of differently on different levels in different places. So we'll bring you research on what other places have done, whether all the revenue is dedicated, half of it, a quarter of it, and kind of what are the benefits and negatives of that.
Thank you. I look forward to that.
Great.
And then Hannah's hand real quick reminded me, so there's a public engagement report that is just being published today on the website. And so all of the comments we received, the 4,600 plus comments, and ODOT's responses to those, and specifically the from historically underrepresented and underserved communities, that's all going to be put on our website, and we have additional communication and other things going out after that. Did I cover it, Hannah? Okay, cool. Sorry.
Any other questions? Any other members have questions about the project updates? So I don't think I'm seeing any hands. So we have a second question, which is, do you have any questions about how you as EMAC members will weigh in on future decisions about the game plan? No questions? All right, I'm not seeing any hands, so that's great. Okay, then I think we'll move forward. Are you good to go forward, Garrett?
Yeah, I think so. It's a big question and one that's evolving. So just look to that EMAC game plan schedule, that detailed sheet, and as you see things in the future, let us know if we're hitting the mark on lining up information for you.
Okay, great. So next up, we have Hannah Williams and the team to discuss the process equity performance measures. And I'll just let you take it from here. Hannah?
Thank you, Jessica. All right, so we've been talking about process equity for a little bit. So we have been meeting to look at our public involvement plan and our equitable engagement chapter that's part of the public involvement plan for the I-205 toll project, and the process equity performance measures that are really at the center of all of our process equity and engagement. That's how we're going to tell if we're reaching people, if our engagement is making an impact, if we're being successful. So we brought a subgroup together, and the participants are on the screen there. It was Ping and Eduardo and Jermaine and James to kind of further those documents. And I'd love to invite Eduardo and James and Ping to join me to kind of talk through some of the highlights from our time together. I don't think Jermaine's on the call today, but if you are and I missed you, I'd love for you to jump in too. Could I get the next slide, please? We're really hoping, all of this work is evolving. These are all working documents, because as we, dig into a round of engagement, we're going to learn a lot. We're going to evaluate ourselves with the performance measures, and then we'll have to make some changes as we go. So just want to put that out there that even though we hope to really get your support today to be able to move forward and dig into all of this work, get started, we will be coming back and making changes and making them better and stronger. So some of the things that really came out of our discussion was just being clear about what these documents are for. So really, these are internal documents that we are using to make sure that our engagement is meaningful. And does anyone from the subgroup want to jump in here with me? Feel free to just unmute and talk about anything that was important to you or that you contributed to our work.
Well, the clarifying the document purpose, that was a big one, because we kind of started getting into thinking of the documents as being for the public, not just that these are public meetings, but documents for the public. We need to make the documents so they're for this group. And yes, they could have legs beyond this group, but it's really much more as tools for our specific group.
Thanks, James. Yeah, that was really helpful for us to realize that and be really clear with the purpose for all these documents so that we can all be successful. Another thing that really came out of our time together was really talking about trust and kind of the vision for gaining trust from the community, kind of putting a vision statement at the beginning of the performance measures to kind of acknowledge that this is something that's aspirational, something that trust won't be achieved with one project. And that transparency is really something that can help us to build trust along the way. And it's something that has to be earned, like respect, not, something that can just be checked off the box. We also really enhanced our connection to community engagement liaisons. Ping, is there anything you'd want to share with the group about our discussions? I mean, it was pretty obvious when we all got together at the workshop and then with the subgroup that we couldn't do this work without the community engagement liaisons. They are such a critical tool, and that it's really important that we work with them at every step of the way in the planning and the evaluation and the actual engagement itself.
Hi. So I'm Ping, and I work with the community engagement liaisons. So I just want to share with you a few things that liaison did mention the last few weeks. The process that we are going through right now might not be something that a lot of community members could understand because it'll be complicated for them, the concept of different, equity framework. But the liaison did mention a few things is that from talking to community members is that during the COVID time, the communication process basically just based on phone calls and emails and limited, face-to-face interaction. So maybe hoping in the next 3 to 6 months, we might be able to go out to see people, and there might be a different group of, people that liaison might be meeting or might actually get to know. They might not know about this project. So we might actually in some way reach out to the group that we missed earlier. And that's one. Number two is that even after we have decided, let's say after 2 years, and we arrive in the sort of like implementation stage, it almost seems like it has almost like a hand-holding process for the community members, because they understand that it's going to happen, but doesn't mean that they understand how to sign up, or even understand how it works. For instance, someone who might not be living around the I-205 neighborhood, might be living in a different county, that decided to one day, hey, they need to go to the airport and they have to take I-205, but they don't know that this is happening. So they might not see the toll booth, but they don't know they have to pay in advance, and they just drive. Then later on, 3 months later, they got maybe 2 weeks later, they got a notification say, hey, you must pay your fine because you didn't pay for the toll. So something like that is like, how are we going to figure a way to get the message, how to implement it, and educate people how to prepare for this, not just for the residents around this Clackamas or, Mountain County, but people that outside of this Tri-County area. What can we do better? The liaisons want to make sure that people outside of these Tri-County areas actually also understand these things, this whole process going on. And the implementation work is going to happen in maybe 2023 or 24, and you want to make sure everybody's on top of it. That's what I was told. I'm relaying a message. Thank you.
Did Eduardo want to say something before we? Thank you, Ping. It's so great to see you, Ping.
Thanks.
Yeah, I guess I would only just really emphasize why I specifically advocated for keeping that vision of trust in the document. As a local government worker myself, I think I hear very often communities don't trust government. And while that's true, no, I don't think that has to get explained to me. I grew up in a household where we paid our taxes, we avoided the police, and no interaction with local government. So, but I think by removing that vision and that aspiration, we make it okay for government to continue to be, to have that role of people don't trust you. And so you're gonna just not do the legwork and hire, hand the work over to nonprofit agencies, for example. So anyways, that's all I'll say on that. To me, it's really important that at least it's included as part of the vision. And yeah, it won't be accomplished in this project, but we'll continue building off of this, and hopefully it'll be a model for future projects.
Thanks, Eduardo. We feel really good about it being in there too. We're excited to work with you. So with that, Jessica, do you want me to turn it over to you to ask the big question?
Let's ask the big question. Having heard that, thank you all for that great report out about all the good work that you've done. Are you ready to support and move forward with the process equity performance measures? So maybe Nicole will bring back, everybody up, and let's just have a thumbs up if everybody agrees to move forward with the process equity performance measures. I'm seeing good agreement. I think, yeah. Okay. I think we've got agreement. So good. I think we can move forward. Great work, you guys. And thank you for the report. So I think we'll bring back up the slides, and now we're in the public comment and committee report out period. So I think let's just welcome we've saved time for verbal comment for the committee. So if you would like to address the committee, this is to the public. If you would like to address the committee, please go ahead and raise your virtual hand. And if you're on the phone and want to raise your hand, please use *9. Are there any raised hands, Nick?
There are.
Okay.
Looks like we've got one individual who's wanting to make a comment at this point. So Nicole, whenever you're ready to cue that up. And Doug, this will be you. Doug Allen, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you.
Hi, Nick. Can you hear me now?
We can. Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Doug Allen, and I'd like to bring to your attention a bill that's in the Oregon legislature that makes a big change to the current law regarding congestion pricing. This bill is House Bill 3055, and the relevant sections are 52 through 80. These sections have been proposed by ODOT, and they do several things. First, they replace the words congestion relief program with toll program, and abolish the congestion relief fund into which congestion pricing revenues would have gone, and replace it with the quote toll program fund. And all references to value pricing would be removed from Oregon law. This may sound like it's just semantics, but the other big change is to create a bond program to pay for highway expansion projects only, and give bondholders first dibs on all revenue in the toll program fund. What this really means is that even on I-5, ODOT is moving away from low levels of variable tolling for congestion relief to high and inflexible levels needed to pay off bonds for construction projects. The essence of congestion pricing is gutted by these changes. Don't expect any surplus revenue for transit facilities or safety that aren't on the actual freeway. Expect high tolls even off peak and at night. This bill deserves your analysis, understanding, and opinion before it is passed out of committee to the full legislature. So there was a question about coordination. Look at today's Willamette Week, where there's an article about how ODOT has proposed transit on shoulders, and the executive director from TriMet at the meeting says, what? We have no plans. We have no funding to pay for buses on shoulders through the Rose Quarter project. So please take a look at this change in the program from congestion pricing to tolling for project construction. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments, Doug. We appreciate them. Nick, do we have any other hands raised?
We do not at this moment.
Okay.
Oh, you know what, Jessica, we do.
Okay, great.
Laura, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. So you should see that notification in just a minute. Whenever you're ready, Laura.
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Great. My name is Laura Grayerbeal, and I want to thank you for doing this emphasis on equity within our transportation system. I think it's so important. There is one thing I'd just like to raise, and I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time, but I do live in the Oregon City West Linn area. And I saw that one of the options is to eliminate vehicle traffic from the Arch Bridge to create a pedestrian bicycle transportation option. And I'm 100% in favor of a bicycle and pedestrian option, but not at the loss of that bridge for vehicles. Just last week, we had an ice situation and I-205 was shut down. And if we didn't have the Arch Bridge, there's no way for us to get to Oregon City. And I work in a school, so I have to be there. So just wanted to let you know that we definitely need that second bridge to cross the river. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura, for your comments. Nick, anyone else out there?
Not at this time.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, if there is anybody else out there, please note that your comments are welcome at any time by emailing oregantolling@odot.state.or.us or calling 503-837-3536 and leaving a voicemail. So thank you, Laura and Doug, for your comments, and anyone else out there listening that would like to send comments to the committee. So I think now we should move to the next slide. And this is the time for the committee to share what you've been hearing from your community. But I think we're going to start it off with Michael to share his work and poem on the letter that they wrote.
Thank you. Yes, I'd love to share about it. And I just put the link to it in the chat if you wanted to see it there. And I'd love to just share a few excerpts from it. And this is coming from the Pricing Options for Equitable Mobility Task Force, a group that has been meeting about every month for the past year. And so they wrote a letter, and it is in regards to tolling, and it's an advisory group to the city. So the letter is addressed to our commissioners and bureau directors. So I'll just jump in and read a few highlights. We believe that highway tolling, if implemented intentionally to manage demand on our transportation system, i.e. designed as congestion pricing, has the potential to contribute to more climate-friendly and equitable outcomes. Our current unmanaged highway system contributes to climate change, air pollution, serious and fatal traffic crashes, burdensome transportation costs, and a host of other problems, many of which disproportionately burden Black and Indigenous communities, other people of color, low-income people, and persons with disabilities. Rising congestion on our regional highways also poses significant costs to our economy and quality of life. Expanding highways, however, will only make these negative impacts worse. We do not want to see an increasing reliance on highway infrastructure, and instead believe we should use our existing infrastructure as efficiently as possible. We believe tolling has the potential to be a tool to manage our system more efficiently, reducing the need to spend limited resources on expensive highway projects and preserving funds for multimodal investment. However, if the region is to implement tolling for demand management, it cannot do so without an explicit commitment to prioritize the needs of Black and Indigenous people, other people of color, low-income Portlanders, and persons with disabilities. And then I'll just share some of the key specific recommendations. One is the primary goal of highway tolling should be managing traffic demand and using the existing system as efficiently as possible to move people and goods in a more sustainable way. While tolling can also be a revenue generating tool, this should not be the top priority. And then to better align with demand management objectives, we recommend ODOT change the name to a congestion pricing program. To achieve mobility, climate, and equity outcomes, toll prices should be variable based on levels of congestion. And then I'll jump down a little bit. Discounts, exemptions, or rebates must be provided for low-income drivers. Technology and payment systems must be designed to reduce barriers for individuals with limited access to bank accounts. Tickets and fines for non-compliance should be means-based and structured by income level to mitigate disproportionate impacts. And then further down, to reduce traffic demand on highways, we must provide people with robust multimodal travel alternatives. Tolling revenue must be available to create and support this broad multimodal transportation system, not just highway improvements. And then tolling revenue must also be available to ensure that traffic diversion from the highways does not make local streets less safe and does not adversely impact transit. And so those are just a few selections from the letter. And I think you'll see a lot of the themes that we've discussed here are also in that letter as well. So thanks for giving me the time to share that letter. I'm happy to take any questions, or if anyone wants to connect about the poem work, I'm happy to do that as well.
Any thoughts for Michael? Well, I'm not hearing anyone. But thank you very much for that, Michael. I think what we'll do now, let's just take a minute and see if there's anyone else that has wants to share what's going on with their communities. Thanks a lot, Michael. It was awesome.
Thanks.
I'm not hearing anyone. Kari?
Thanks. Thanks, Michael, for your reading out of that letter from Poem. I wanted to just share a little bit about what I've been hearing around some legislation that's been passing through down in Salem that's related to the work that we're doing. And this is not the bill that was just mentioned in the public testimony, but it's similar and related. There's a House bill called 3065, and it looks at a number of different things, but one of the things that it looks at is this tolling or congestion pricing program. And what I've been hearing from my community, and I did write a letter to the legislature, to the committee was looking at this bill, and just wanted to share, I think, especially in light of what we've been talking about today around what we're trying to achieve and what the outcomes of this tolling program are, what we want to see in terms of outcomes for the community. I think that's a really great conversation. I'm really glad that we're having that now. And I think that that's something we've all been really wanting to have and been waiting for. And so I'm really glad to be able to have that. But I also wanted to point out that the tolling program doesn't start until, I think it's 23, Garrett can correct me if I'm wrong, 2023. But what's being proposed at this point is that the projects themselves start in the next year, within the next year, so before the tolling begins. And I think that's something that isn't always clear completely when we're looking at the timelines of what this project is looking at in terms of the tolling, what happens with the projects themselves. And so I just wanted to read a little bit of the letter that I wrote to the legislature around some of the changes that are coming through with this House Bill 3065. So I'll start. Given an ever increasing number of people moving to Oregon and the scarce transportation dollars available, not to mention the high cost of roadway expansion, it is in the interest of the state to manage and maintain our existing system while supporting less expensive ways to alleviate traffic congestion. A congestion management / tolling program must begin with goals of reducing traffic congestion through smart management of the system and by increasing viable alternatives to single occupant vehicles. However, tolling, and specifically bonding, which is what is being proposed in this House bill, would be to bond against the future tolls to be able to pay for the projects now. Bonding for dedicated roadway expansion projects scoped for current conditions does not allow for real congestion management and only further reinforces ongoing future traffic congestion by expanding roadway capacity, which will fill up again with single occupant vehicles through induced demand. The concern with the direction the congestion pricing / tolling program appears to be going in this bill with the amendments that were introduced is that funding is being committed to the projects first before any meaningful attempts to manage the system take place. Not only is this poor system management, it begs the question of whether tolls will ultimately be set purely to raise revenue, and if there would be any funds remaining after paying off bonds for other demand management and mitigation strategies that have been promised to support those who are underrepresented or underserved by the targeted transportation projects. I think I just wanted to bring that to your attention because I think it's really relevant to what we're talking about in this committee. And it's not clear what's going to happen with that bill in the legislature, but it will impact the outcome of the work that we do one way or the other. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Kari. Any other thoughts from the committee members?
I would like to have updates on both those bills because they seem like they're undercutting what we're trying to do. So there's no point in being here if they're going to change the rules halfway through.
Yeah, and I think I would like to just say, and we have Brendan Finn, our Urban Mobility Office Director here as well, maybe talk about, well, one, I just want to say, Michael, Kari, Bill, you're all really important members of our committee. And so you bring up some good questions and real concerns here. And so I think we could say a few things from ODOT. I know whenever something's pending legislation, it's kind of, we want to speak with one voice. But I think there's a few things we can say about congestion management, our commitment to that, equity and climate. And so Brendan, do you mind saying a few words just about some of these, what's going on in Salem and how it might connect to the work we're doing here? Oh, can't hear you.
Yeah.
Sorry, double muted. I did that to myself twice today. Sorry, getting late in the day. Happy to. And, a lot of this, as it comes from the city of Portland's perspective, is very reminiscent to me. I represented the city of Portland on the Value Pricing Advisory Committee that was created through HB 2017. I helped author the policy that the city of Portland has that says the Rose Quarter Improvement Project will not be supported by the city of Portland unless it has congestion pricing. So I'm really happy to go on the record here today to continue to show ODOT's support for that, not only on my previous work with the city, but happy to kind of see it through here with the state. So that's our commitment there. How we're reading these bills and how they'll be implemented is that they will not impact our work. They will not impact how we move forward with the program, and having congestion pricing be the major component. If not, as far as we've seen it and how it relates to the Comprehensive Congestion Management Mobility Plan, which I appreciate. I got to talk to this group about last time I was here. That it'll be a system-wide approach that will raise revenue for projects, but will also manage demand. One of the things that I think is really tough for us here and the work that we have is this cart and horse piece that we have. And Lucinda has talked about this before, is that we won't have that real traffic and revenue analysis for at least a year to understand what's going to be generated there. But that doesn't mean that we can't do this work now, because we need to be ready. We need to understand what the alternatives are, what the mitigations are. So how we read this legislation how we read it doesn't impede the work. It doesn't impede how we're going to move forward. So we need to still go on record as an agency, and how we're seeing this is that we're still going to be able to manage the demand through the first system-wide congestion pricing program ever seen in the United States. Happy to report that our relationship with the federal government right now is a very good one as it relates to these projects and the NEPA process and how we move forward with this. So keep up the good work, because it's not, Bill, going to be, the rug isn't going to be tucked from under you as far as we're reading things as they're happening now. In fact, the conversations that I've had with legislators is that they just want to double down on it. So I guess that's how we're interpreting things, and that's how we're reading it right now. So we're still completely committed to this work as an agency.
Thank you, Brendan.
I would just appreciate more clarity as things move further along, because as you're reading it now, there's still a lot of stuff that can happen and change, and who knows what the end point will be. So updates on that and clarity moving forward, I think would be much appreciated.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. That's great. So we're at time, you guys. I think this is an awesome conversation. We're going to continue it. And we'll bring the clarity that you've asked for about the bills and what ODOT is doing. So I think unless anyone has any burning need to say something right now, we're going to pause, but we'll continue the conversation during the next meeting, and we'll also work in between to give you more clarification about what we're doing. So does anybody have any burning need to say something right now? Okay, I think we're ready to go ahead and close the meeting. So yeah, next step. So our next EMAC workshop is on April 28th, and it's from 3:30 to 5 p.m. And we're going to focus on the social resources mapping and transit and multimodal equity performance measures and policies. So that's a workshop as opposed to a meeting. So that's April 28th. That's the Wednesday. And also, if you can please remember to fill out the meeting evaluation. I think the link is in the email that Nick may have sent to you during the meeting. So we would have taken the last 5 minutes to do the meeting evaluation, but if you can just promise us that you will try to do them shortly thereafter as we close, that would be fabulous. I think I just want to move, if we can go to the next slide. I just want to leave you with a closing thought. This was an amazing meeting. We got through a lot of information. We accomplished everything actually on our agenda. I think let's just think about the goals that you talked about, especially you as the EMAC members. If you can think about your goals, and please help us make sure we are doing all the things that we need to help you realize your goals. That's what I'd like to leave you with. So every meeting, come back with, what your priorities are and make sure that we're on track together. So with that, I'd like to close the meeting. Thank you all. And I hope that you have a fabulous evening.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Great work.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
It's
Thanks
awesome.
for all your time.
Hey there, don't forget to save that chat, Nick.
I have got a whole bunch of them saved.
Okay.
I was saving it like every minute.
And we can stop recording, I think, now too.
Let's see here. Okay.
Okay.
We are wrapped.
Okay, we'll see you later. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks. Bye, Nicole.